Oh my gosh. So the last writing related video that I did almost has 10,000 views. So I'm going to expand on that and show you how to start writing a feature film from scratch. Literally nothing. I don't know what I'm going to write about, but I'm going to use a simple method to deduce who our characters are. And I'm going to show you on this computer. So let's get into it. I'm sorry, I'm very tired and my 18-month-old is not sleeping very much. So pray for your boy. So this is the Dan Harmon story circle. And if you're not familiar with this, it's a simplification of what's called the hero's journey or the monomyth, meaning that it's a singular character going on a journey of self-discovery and adventure. Think of King Arthur, think of Star Wars, any story in between pretty much follows this formula. Its effectiveness can basically be traced back to the psychological underpinning of humans and how you interpret life. Yeah, Joseph Campbell says that myth is a metaphor for the experience of life. Deeper than dreams or emotions, we process life visually, kind of like a movie. And so when you think about like your bedroom at 5 years old or 10 years old, you don't smell something, you don't hear something, you just see something. We process life visually like this. And that's one reason why movies are so impactful. But this is a simplification of what the monomyth is. And it starts out with, number one, you establish the protagonist. Who are we dealing with? What world do they live in? Need. Something isn't right. There's something off about life. There's something that doesn't sit well with the protagonist. There's something that is unfulfilled with their current state of living. Number three is go, crossing the threshold. Now, there is this centralized line that runs horizontally through this circle, which represents the special world and the normal world. You start in the normal world, you move into the special world, experience things, and change, coming back to the normal world a different person. And my daughter is at the door. Number four is search. Typically, this is where you're looking for a specific MacGuffin or Excalibur or what have you. You know, you're looking for the Holy Grail. This is that part where you begin that journey and it leads you into all sorts of trials. Number five is find. Meeting the goddess, finding the sword, you know. This is where you find the thing or the person that you were looking for in the process. Number six is take, paying the price. In this story structure, typically when you find something, you then must pay for it in some way, whether it be a battle scar, losing someone, you know, giving up your mortality, who knows, you know, in the story structure, it could be anything, but you have to pay a price that is heavy to the main character. Side note, I think a lot of problems with stories is that they try to make the paying the price or the finding these really big things, you know, with these massive stakes. And the stakes are ultimately rooted in spectacle and large scale things that are really intangible to the everyday person, and more specifically, not super important to the main character. Something I always think about is like the movie Independence Day. You know, the aliens are here and they're going to blow up the Earth. Obviously, that affects everybody, but it's not tailor-made to our specific heroes. The broadness of the stakes feel kind of forced to me. That's typically why, like in these disaster movies, they'll throw someone's family in danger because it's more personal to the main character. And that's the thing that actually matters to them, not necessarily saving the world, which I think is kind of funny. And then number seven is the return. You bring it home. Could be like rescuing your friends from the fire and now you're gonna go out and get a beer, you know, or the end of basically every Michael Bay movie where the people survive the ordeal that they should not have survived and then they go back to normal life. And then number eight, you cross the threshold of special world and normal world again and you go back to the normal world changed. You know, Sam Witwicky going back to school. The protagonist has gained an understanding of life or the world that they live in, that they are now the master of both worlds. Now that's a very just basic breakdown of what this is and how this serves to construct story. So now we're actually going to do it. So I am going to genre picker to pick a genre. I'm really scared. Spin it. Can't look. I can't look. Horror. Dadgummit. This is the one that I did not want. See, I'm too honest to respin it and then act like it's my first one. This is a hard one. Horror to me always feels like something that is about your physical existentialism. You know, it's like you're going to die or you're going to be chased or murdered by this clown. You know, that to me doesn't necessarily have the same amount of intrigue. So right off the bat, to me, this is going to be a spiritual horror. Since it's going to be a spiritual horror idea, I'm going to go with someone who is spiritual. I'm going to go with a priest, but I'm going to go with a really young priest, because typically horror has to do with good versus evil, but a lot of times it's the young people versus the old people, or, you know, more experienced. It's more of a metaphor for like, how do you deal with things that go wrong in your life? So let's say this is, I'm going to go Charlie. Let's say he's studying to be a priest. Now I'm just going to make a couple notes based on the video that I put out last week. You should definitely check out. There's a couple of different key things to a character in my mind, and there's 4 things. There's a want, there's a need, there's a habit or a sickness, and a cure. And basically that wraps into your motivation of character. So we're going to call his want to be a priest. Need. Now this is the internal need of the character, not necessarily the external need. We're going to say to be seen blameless, because there's like that song that's like, we are blameless in his sight, or I don't know, something that's like, I wonder if he could have been something that was someone that was like blamed for something that, you know, and he's trying to like prove that he's not the person that did this bad thing. And his sickness, maybe we can just say he has an addiction, just kind of keep it simple for now. And maybe as we go through the story, it'll become more clear. So his cure really is to forgive himself for something that he did. So we're going to make a little summary here. So Charlie is a young man in a small town training to be a priest. Well known to the town, he is often seen as a black sheep because of the crime he committed or was associated with as a teenager. So need, something isn't right in their life. So maybe it's like, no matter how good Charlie behaves, people still treat him differently. I think it's important to dole out what was the thing that happened. So the crime in question was a party at a quarry where a young girl killed her, or that's an interesting idea. A young girl fell and died. You don't like that quarry and Stranger Things? That's actually like down the road in Atlanta. That could be a really interesting. Okay, I got an idea. No matter how good Charlie behaves, people still treat him differently. Blaming him for the death of the girl. I think it's also important to note like other characters that are very prominent within the monomyth. A lot of them are like the mentor. Typically this is their role model for like the person that they should try to be more like. The staff, there is one, I guess it's priest, that is friendly to Charlie, an older gentleman who sees the good in him. Just make it simple. And then on the anniversary night of the girl dying. Now this is interesting, spiritual horror, right? Okay, so what's something that could happen that denotes spiritual ties? It depends on how gross we want to go. I am a massive weenie when it comes to horror movies. I don't know why. It was fate that it was this one. You know, on anniversary night of the girl dying, maybe another girl of similar, that's interesting. Another girl of similar age, duck, a tid, and is, well, we'll just make it simple for this, murdered. I don't like writing about murder, about things like this. So anyway, instantly, Charlie is under suspicion. Charlie drinks to the point of blacking out on the anniversary of the girl's night dying. That same night, the anniversary of the girl's death, another girl of similar age gets abducted and murdered. Instantly, Charlie is under suspicion, but has a solid alibi. The older priest vouches for him. Charlie is unsure because of his addiction. Again, a large portion of what we're trying to do is not necessarily come up with all the details in the house. It's to get started writing a feature script. I'm kind of struggling with like where I feel like I need the story to go. but it's definitely not savory because of the exercise. But I feel like to tie it back to some sort of spiritualism and to involve the church, because it creates a clear road of redemption for Charlie, it has to be done in this manner. So I apologize if this is offensive. Again, it's not real. It's a fake story. So the church is brought in to like make sense of the murders. Charlie, the church gives Charlie, because of the frenzy of the public, start to offer services as more spiritual mumbo jumbo continues to happen. So basically, everybody's going to church because weird stuff is happening, and Charlie is around more and more people. After seeing a bat-like demon thing, it attacks Charlie, and he survives. He then leads the police in an investigation to try to find it. And typically an important moment in the story is the death of the mentor. The mentor has passed along what they know about life and their knowledge. The main character has to then press on and continue without them. It would actually be really interesting if we had like a whole like procedure versus religious tie to it. So maybe like Charlie is attacked by the bat thing and he survives. The police don't believe him, and the church people do, or one of them does, and she wants to find it because it was her sister that died. So Search, the road of trials, this is where we test our protagonist. And basically after seeing a bat-like demon thing and attacks Charlie, he survives. The police don't believe him, but a girl at the church does, the sister of the murdered girl, and they start to search together for the demon. And then I think it would be good if how he is affected by the interaction with the demon character. So Charlie now uses his addiction to cope with the nightmare fuel that is the demon. Okay, now I think it's interesting, in traditional stories you meet the goddess. This next part, find, this is the most confusing part of all of it to me, but I think it's you find the thing you're looking for. In horror, it doesn't have to be a goddess. It can be a demon. So here's a question. How is the demon related to Charlie? There's a reveal that I've been saving that I thought was interesting about the story. I remember when I was like, aha. But basically, the twist is that the girl at the quarry wasn't an accident or his fault. It was planned. She was trying to commit. So he was trying to stop her, but he couldn't. So he's bothered by the fact that he was unable to save her. And I think that makes his desire to become a holy man, like a priest, a lot more compelling, because also I could see a scene where the sister finds out and, why didn't you say anything? And he was like, he could say something like, everybody was at the church grieving this girl and I didn't have the heart to tell them that she didn't want to be alive anymore. I could see something like that being in the story and totally working. So in the meeting of the goddess, I'm trying to figure out the best way that the demon would have a relationship with Charlie. And this is probably where people are screaming at the screen telling me what it should be, but what do I want it to be? We're gonna call her Laura because I'm tired of calling her the sister of the girl who died most recently. Charlie and Laura find a demon worship place that is the resting cave of the demon. I think it could be interesting that the people that were involved in this demon worship were the ones that lost the most. So it could be the parents of the first victim were involved in this cult thing. They released the demon and now they don't know how to fix it.
Okay, so I just thought of a way that could make this really, really interesting. Her parents were doing the demon worship to bring their daughter back, and instead they released this demon. That would be kind of cool. I just had to do that. I'm letting myself just kind of butcher whatever this story is supposed to be, but I had to say that. Back to the video.
So Charlie gets himself captured by the demon to go to its nest he goes to its nest to destroy it. Because maybe the people are too afraid to go to the altar now. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's a little bit more like Charlie gets to execute his want to go into the demon's lair. I just thought of something else. Okay, so in the Search, the Road of Trials, after seeing the bad thing, it attacks Charlie and he survives, but only because the older priest gets in the way and dies in his place. I could see there being a scene of like confession where the old man like asks Charlie to read him like his last rites, and he confesses to him about having always wanted to have a son or something like that. There could be a really great moment there. So after, you know, the guy dies, you know, everybody then thinks like, why is Charlie constantly around dead people? And maybe even then people are like, he murdered the priest, blah, blah, blah. And like the church gets shut down. So, okay, that's a good thing. The church gets shut down because the priests are afraid of the demon. Charlie is left without an option but to pursue the demon. Because then also it's interesting that there's like the older priest saw something in Charlie that was worth defending, but because he defended him, now the entire church is ruined. So Charlie has had his need, his want taken away by this demon. That makes it more personal, right? So now we're gonna go into the meeting the goddess. They go, and so Charlie gets to execute his want to go into the demon's lair. Then maybe Charlie and Laura go inside the lair and have to basically beat the demon. Fight the demon. They kill the demon. They return home. Laura shares with everyone that Charlie is a hero. Everyone attends his church. Charlie is a hero. Boom. And then we end up in the last space, which is change. Charlie is now the pastor of the church and has Laura as his girlfriend, and he's no longer a Catholic. Anyway, so there we have like a very basic structure of a story that we just came up with. And really, as you know, you're working through it and you start putting down pieces of this bone structure that is the hero's journey, you start to see different things that could have been done differently, things you can add. This is the starting point for all good stories. If you have a protagonist that you can relate to that has a want, a need, a habit, sickness, and a cure, you have everything you need to make a story that's really compelling and straightforward. And ultimately, like each one of these, like for example, Return, Laura shares that Charlie is a hero, can be a very short portion of the story. Like if you think about like the traditional, like, you know, introduction, inciting incident, climax, resolution, it's lopsided. You know, a majority of the movie is spent in the process of trying to get from inciting incident to climax. The result from climax to the end of the movie is typically 10 to 15 minutes. So a lot happens before. So the fact that these ending pieces are a little bit lean doesn't really matter. If you think about it, Laura shares with everyone that Charlie is a hero. That bucks the trend that everybody thinks Charlie is a murderer. That kind of solves some of his wants. And someone proclaims that he is innocent, and he ends up forgiving himself for the problems that he caused and, you know, the girl that he couldn't save. Take is also known as the dark night of the soul. It's the darkest point for your character right before the break of dawn, you know, right before things get good. So it could be that, you know, Charlie is about to die, or, you know, Charlie's about to be seen as this horrible person. You know, I could see a version of this story where Charlie is the demon, and at night when he's addicted and blacked out drunk, he becomes a werewolf or whatever and attacks people. Maybe that's a little more connected to his sickness, but the dark night of the soul is the moment where your character is the furthest away from their want and the most in their sickness and their habit. It is the moment where you think they might die, but then they don't. Great movies keep you on the edge of your seat to the point that you don't even think about the fact that Tom Cruise isn't going to die in Top Gun 2, but it's compelling enough and it's in the moment enough that people don't even think about it. They just react. And that's the beauty of the story, and that's the beauty of film. So thanks for watching. Hope you guys got something out of this. Thank you.